AITA for pulling my sister's wedding fund because she wouldn't babysit my son? My name is Mason, and it all started with my family. My parents Robert and Linda, and my younger sister Vanessa. For as long as I can remember, my life has revolved around them, especially around Vanessa, the queen of the house, the favorite daughter. But let us get something straight right from the start. I do not hold grudges, or at least I did not until everything exploded. I grew up in a humble home in a mid-sized city in Ohio where everyone knows each other. My parents were hard-working people, but we never had a lot of money. Dad, Robert, worked at the local grocery store. Mom, Linda, worked part-time at a clothing retailer while taking care of us. They always gave us what they could, and even though it was not much, I appreciated it deeply. I never needed luxuries. The love with which they gave me things was enough for me. A used pair of shoes, an old shirt from my dad, a plate of food, even if it was small. All of that made me happy because it came from them. But with Vanessa it was different. She always had the best. If there was a bigger piece of meat, it was for her. If there was money for new shoes, they were for her. If they had to choose between buying me a notebook for school or a dress for Vanessa, you guessed it, she won. My parents treated her like a princess, as if the world revolved around her. They always said she was special, that she had a unique charm. I, on the other hand, was the practical son, the one who did not ask for much, the one who settled. Do not get me wrong. I loved my parents with all my heart, and they always treated me well. I never reproached them for anything. I thought that if giving everything to Vanessa made them happy, then it was fine. I did not need to be the favorite. I kept telling myself that it was just their way of making her feel good, of filling some void she might have had. Besides, Vanessa and I were never close. Since we were little, she looked at me with disdain, as if I were a nuisance. If we played, she wanted to be the leader, the one in charge. If I achieved something, like getting good grades, she found a way to overshadow it with one of her stories. And my parents, well, they applauded every single thing she did, while my achievements went unnoticed. Despite everything, it did not affect me that much. I focused on my studies, on my goals, on my dreams. I always wanted to be a doctor, not only to help others, but because I knew it was a way to get ahead, to build a future for myself. I worked hard, studied all night long, got scholarships, and finally became a surgeon. And not just any surgeon, one of the best in the city. My patients respected me, my colleagues admired me, and over time my practice filled with people who trusted me. I started making a solid income. I did not become a millionaire, but I had enough to live well, save and treat myself to some things, and, above all, to help my parents. When I started having a stable income, the first thing I did was support my dad and my mom. I sent them money every month so they could live more comfortably, so they could handle their mortgage and bills, so they would not have to work so hard. They appreciated it, or at least they said so. But soon I noticed something that made me uncomfortable. Part of the money I gave them ended up in Vanessa's hands. My sister, who had never worked a day in her life, suddenly started showing up with designer clothes, designer bags, and luxury makeup. And I was not stupid. I knew perfectly well where that money was coming from. My parents, in their eternal desire to please their favorite daughter, passed on to her everything they could. Vanessa, for her part, never thanked me for anything. On the contrary, she kept treating me like a loser. Every time we saw each other, she made sarcastic comments to me. "Is that the car you bought with your doctor's salary? How basic," she would say while parading around with a bag that probably cost what I earned in a week. One time, at a family gathering, she had the nerve to tell me, "Mason, you should try harder. Look at how well I am doing. Try harder." Me, who had worked my soul to the bone to get to where I was while she lived off my support. Even so, I never talked back to her. I did not want to fight. My parents were my priority, and if they wanted to spoil Vanessa, it was their decision. I kept sending them money and being the son who was always there. But every encounter with Vanessa left a pang in my chest. It was not envy, it was frustration. How could someone be so ungrateful, so selfish? Things changed a few months ago when Vanessa arrived at my parents' house with news that made them jump for joy. "I am getting married," she announced with that shrill voice she uses when she wants to be the center of attention. My parents showered her with praise. Mom hugged her. Dad said it was the best news of his life. I just smiled from the couch and muttered a congratulations. I did not say it with bad intentions, it just did not excite me either. I knew Vanessa too well. I knew that everything she did had an ulterior motive, and I was not wrong. According to her, her fiancé was a highly successful businessman. No one knew exactly what he did for a living, but she spoke of him as if he were a tycoon. She said they traveled, that he took her to expensive restaurants, that he promised her a life of luxury. I had my doubts, but I did not say anything. What Vanessa did state, with a victim face that not even the neighbor's dog would believe, was that they had no money for the wedding. And not just any wedding. She wanted a luxurious, magazine-worthy wedding, with a ballroom in an upscale hotel, gourmet catering, premium floral arrangements, everything that, according to her, a queen deserved. Something smelled fishy. If her fiancé was so successful, why could he not pay for the wedding? Or did he simply not want to? But my parents, mesmerized by the idea of seeing their favorite daughter at the altar, turned to look at me. Their eyes had that mix of pleading and hope that I knew very well. "Mason," Mom said using that sweet voice with which she always got me to give in. "You know, we have always dreamed of seeing one of our children get married. It would be so beautiful to see Vanessa at the altar, right?" Dad nodded and added, "It is an opportunity for the family to shine. Mason, you are the man of the house now, the one who has the means." I wanted to say no. I wanted to remind them of all the times Vanessa had humiliated me, all the times she called me useless, all the times she made fun of me. I wanted to say that it was not fair for me to solve everything while she took the applause. But I could not. Seeing my parents so excited and so happy softened my heart. I loved them too much. So against my better judgment, I said, "All right, I will pay for the wedding." Vanessa did not thank me. She did not even pretend to be grateful. She just said, "I hope you do not make me look bad, Mason. This wedding has to be perfect." From that moment on, Vanessa and Mom became the official wedding planners, and I became the ATM. Every few days I received a message from Vanessa with a new invoice. The ballroom at the Grand Plaza Hotel, which cost a fortune, the catering from a renowned chef that was essential, the premium floral arrangements that were necessary for the aesthetic. Every time I saw the numbers, I felt a knot in my stomach, not just because of the money, but because of Vanessa's attitude. She never asked how I was doing. She never consulted me about anything. She just demanded. And for the sake of my parents, I kept paying. Sometimes, while I was alone in my office, I wondered why I was doing it, why I was sacrificing so much for someone who did not respect me. But then I thought of Dad and Mom, of their smiles, of how much it meant to them to see Vanessa married, and I kept going. I thought that maybe after the wedding Vanessa would change, that maybe she would thank me, that finally we would be a real family. How naive I was. Everything was going more or less fine until 5 days before the wedding. That day I received a call that changed everything. It was an important client, a businessman from another city who needed an urgent surgery. He offered me a considerable sum, but I had to head out of town that same day. I did not think twice. It was a great opportunity, not just for the money, but for the reputation. The only problem was my son Dylan. He is 5 years old and is my whole world. I have been a single father since his mother left us when he was barely a year old. It has not been easy, but Dylan and I have moved forward together. He is a sweet, curious boy and is always by my side, even on the hardest days. That day, Dylan was on summer break from kindergarten and my usual babysitter was unavailable. I had no one else to turn to, so I called my parents. "We are visiting relatives in a nearby town, Mason," my mom said. "But Vanessa is at home. Ask her." My heart sank. Asking Vanessa for a favor was like playing Russian roulette, but I had no choice. It was just a one-day trip, nothing more. I thought that after everything I had done for her wedding, she could at least help me with this. I put Dylan in the car, drove to my parents' house, and knocked on the door. Vanessa opened, and her expression said it all. She looked at me as if I were a nuisance, as if my mere presence was offensive to her. "What do you want, Mason?" she asked, crossing her arms. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my calm. "Vanessa, I have to go out of town for work. It is something urgent. Could you watch Dylan for a day? Just today, I promise." Her response left me stunned. She let out a sarcastic laugh. "Who do you think I am? Your maid? I am not here to babysit. Mason, pay for a babysitter or something. Do you not see that I am going to marry a businessman? I do not have time for this." I was left speechless. After everything I had paid for, after every cent invested in her wedding, this is what I got. I tried to reason with her. "Vanessa, please, it is only one day. It is important to me. But she did not give in. If you think that because you paid for my wedding you can order me around, you are wrong. She said it with an arrogance that made my blood boil. Do not bother me anymore. In that moment, something inside me broke. I looked at Dylan, who was by my side looking confused, and then I looked back at her. Perfect, I told her with a calm that I did not feel. If you are not willing to help me, then I am not your bank. I turned around, took Dylan by the hand, and we got into the car. While I was driving, my head was a whirlwind. I was furious, but also determined. I called the event venue, the caterer, and the organizers. I canceled absolutely everything. There would be no wedding. Not after how she had treated me. Vanessa could believe herself to be the queen of the world, but I was not going to continue being her subject. When I finished, I turned off my phone. I did not want to hear the consequences yet. I looked at Dylan in the rearview mirror. Are you okay, little guy? I asked him. He looked up and nodded with a smile. Yes, Daddy. I had no idea how I was going to manage bringing him to work with me, but in that moment it did not matter. What mattered was that for the first time in a long time I had set a boundary. I had said enough. The trip to the other city was intense, but fortunately everything went well. The surgery was a success, the client was grateful, and the check they handed me made the effort worthwhile. But while driving back home, with Dylan asleep in the back seat, my mind was not on the money or the professional success. I was thinking about what awaited me when I turned on my phone. Upon arriving home, the first thing I did was check it. There were 53 missed calls. 30 from Vanessa, 15 from my mom, 5 from my dad, and 3 from unknown numbers. I had a bunch of text messages. I did not read them all, but the first ones were enough to understand the tone. You ruined my life. How dare you? I am never going to forgive you. Mom's messages were softer, but equally painful. Mason, why did you do this? Your sister is devastated. Dad, as always, was more direct. You are selfish, Mason. I thought you were better than this. The next day, while having breakfast with Dylan, the phone rang again. It was Mom. I took a deep breath before answering. Mason, she began with a broken voice. How could you do this to your sister? She was so excited about her wedding. It was her dream. I tried to stay calm. Mom, it was not my intention to ruin anything. But do you know what happened? I asked her for a favor, a simple one, to watch Dylan for one day. After everything I have paid for, after everything I have done for her, she refused to help. Does that seem fair to you? Mom sighed. Oh, Mason, do not exaggerate. Vanessa is stressed because of the wedding. It is normal for her to be sensitive. It is no reason to make such a drastic decision. I felt my blood boil. Sensitive? Stressed? Did that justify treating me like I did not matter? Mom, it is not just this. Vanessa has always treated me like I am worth nothing. And you guys, I am sorry to say it, have always put her above me. Always. I paid for that wedding for you too, not for her, but not anymore. If she does not respect me, I do not expect her to. But I am also not going to continue being her ATM. There was silence. Then Mom said something that hurt me more than I expected. You are ungrateful, Mason. After everything we have done for you. I did not know what to answer. Ungrateful. Me, who had worked to the point of exhaustion to give them a better life. Me, who never asked for anything in return other than a little affection. I hung up without saying another word. The following days were a whirlwind. Vanessa did not stop sending me messages, each one more hurtful than the last. You are envious. You have always wanted to ruin my happiness. If you really love Mom and Dad, reconsider what you did. But I did not give in. I had made a decision, and I was not going to back down. Little by little, more details started coming out. Apparently, Vanessa had been going around telling the whole city that her fiancé, the supposed businessman, was the one paying for everything. But when the wedding fell apart, the man did not contribute a single cent and ended the relationship shortly after. According to rumors, Vanessa had made him believe she came from a well-off family, that she was some sort of heiress. When he discovered that it was all a lie and that the money was coming from a simple surgeon, he wanted nothing more to do with her. I could not help but feel a pang of satisfaction, not because I wanted to see her suffer, but because finally her lies had caught up with her. My parents, however, did not see it that way. Every time I spoke with them, they tried to make me feel guilty. Vanessa is devastated, Mom would say. She does not leave her room. Dad was harsher. Fix this, Mason. You are the man of the family. It is your responsibility. but I was no longer willing to yield. "No, Dad," I told him once. "My responsibility is Dylan. My responsibility is me." Vanessa had her chance, and she wasted it. I am not going to keep sacrificing myself for someone who does not respect me. That conversation marked a before and after. For the first time, I told them that if they kept putting her above me, I would have to distance myself. It was one of the hardest things I have ever done, because I love my parents, but I also know that I cannot live under Vanessa's shadow. It is not fair to me, and much less to Dylan. Over time, I started to rebuild my life. I focused on my work, on my son, on what really matters. I cut all contact with Vanessa. I blocked her number and stopped reading her messages. I did not want any more of her negativity. With my parents, the relationship became more complicated. We kept talking, but the conversations were full of awkward silences. I tried to explain my point, but they always ended up defending Vanessa. "She is your sister, Mason. The family must stay united." But what kind of family is one where one person always gives and the other only takes? The following days, I reflected on everything. I had lost my sister, perhaps forever. My relationship with my parents was on the verge of collapse, but for the first time in a long time, I felt free. Free from the expectations, from the burden of being the one who always solves things, free from Vanessa's shadow. I did not know what the future would bring, but I was clear about one thing. I would never be anyone's bank again. Update 1. I never thought I would end up writing something like this, but here I am. A couple of weeks after canceling Vanessa's wedding, when I had already achieved a bit of peace in my house and Dylan was back to sleeping without waking up from the noise of the phone, I received a court summons. It was not a call or a message. It was a lawsuit. Vanessa was taking me to court for emotional distress, financial losses, and intentional disruption of an important event in her life. I had never laughed and felt disgusted at the same time. It claimed that I had canceled her wedding without having the legal authority to do so, that my act had caused her profound psychological anguish, and that she had lost significant investments related to the event. Her file included manipulated screenshots, edited emails, and even a supposed quote that she had signed on behalf of the couple using my email as if I had authorized the transaction. It was absurd, but the most painful part was not the lawsuit. It was finding out during the initial hearing that my parents had decided to be her primary witnesses. Yes, my mom and my dad, the same ones I had supported financially for years. The same ones who cried when Dylan called them grandparents. The same ones for whom I paid for that wedding that was now being used as a weapon against me. When I saw them enter the courthouse walking behind Vanessa as if they were her emotional support, I felt something break inside me in a way I still do not know how to describe. At the proceedings, the room was cold, silent, and almost solemn. I was accompanied by my lawyer, a trusted colleague from the hospital who had dealt with much more serious cases than this one. While Vanessa arrived with her typical air of a victim, eyes red from crying, strategically smudged makeup, and a folder full of evidence. When she started speaking, I thought I had walked into a scripted scene. She cried and moaned. She claimed she was in therapy for the stress as a result of the public embarrassment. She said I had ruined her social life and that now no one wanted to marry her. She swore that I had always been envious of her success, Vanessa's success. But the final blow came when my parents took the stand. My mom testified that I had always been impulsive and that Vanessa just wanted to be happy. My dad said that my cancellation had been a harsh act and that as the man of the family, I should have solved it without ruining everything. I just sat there listening to the two people who raised me speak against me to defend their favorite daughter. I do not know if I have ever felt such a precise emotional stab. My lawyer, who at first was almost bored by the case, started smiling when his turn came. He presented the payment receipts, my bank transfers, the invoices issued in my name, the contract signed by me as the sole financial guarantor, and then the part one enjoyed the most, the forged emails. The digital forensics expert proved that the supposed emails from me were edited files. The metadata did not lie. Vanessa had modified everything using a free online program. The look on the judge's face was one I wish I could describe perfectly. It was a mix of disbelief and, why am I wasting my time with this? When he dismissed the lawsuit and warned that submitting altered documents could lead to further legal issues, Vanessa turned pale. My mom cried. My dad avoided looking at me. The hardest part was when we left the courthouse. Vanessa tried to confront me. She called me a monster. She said people were going to know who I really was and that I was going to regret it. But it was not her outburst that broke me down. It was my mother saying, "Was it necessary to humiliate her? That is how your sister is." Right then I knew there was nothing left to save. Even though I had won the case, I had lost something much bigger. The illusion that my family would someday see me as an equal and not as a walking ATM. That night, while Dylan slept next to me, because I did not have the strength to get up from the couch, I hugged him tighter than usual. I realized that he, and only he, was my real family. My decision. Today I say it without trembling. I will cut all ties with them. No more calls, no more visits, no more "she is your sister," no more "we are family." Not anymore. I do not want Dylan to grow up in an environment where betrayal is justified by last names. I do not want him to think that love is measured by how much money you give without receiving respect in return. If someday they want to reconsider, they will have to do it without me. And for the first time in decades, I feel like I can breathe without asking for permission. Update 2. It is incredible how far people can go. Vanessa did not accept defeat. She never did. When she lost the lawsuit for emotional distress, we all thought she would finally understand that she could not keep manipulating reality to fit the version she had built of herself. But all she did was change tactics, and this time she chose the most indirect one: social media. She started with subtle hints, Instagram stories about people who promise a life and then let you down, posts with dramatic quotes and photos with black and white filters. But it quickly escalated. As always, suddenly fake profiles started appearing in local community groups insinuating that I had treated her unfairly, that I had left her in debt with vendors, that I had deceived her and embarrassed her publicly. And although at first people saw it as typical post-breakup drama, the stories began to mutate, mixing together, growing like a snowball made of lies, misplaced compassion, and curiosity fed by strangers with too much free time. I tried to ignore it. I tried to keep calm, thinking that eventually she would get tired, but Vanessa never got tired when it came to destroying something she could no longer control. The real problem started when some people began to believe her. A friend of hers, known for seeking out other people's scandals, published a detailed post listing supposed concerns about me that never existed. In a matter of hours, my name was circulating on local pages as if it were a case study on difficult family situations. Even some co-workers wrote to me asking if what was being said was true. And even if they did not say it directly, I could feel it. That doubt in their words, that discomfort left by a serious accusation, even if it is false. Vanessa wanted my reputation to be worth the same as hers after I canceled the wedding. Nothing. The worst part was my family, because instead of taking my side, some started asking me what I had done to make her act that way. And that phrase pierced me in a way that no lie from Vanessa had managed to do. For weeks I felt like I was walking against a tidal wave trying to push me to accept other people's blame, to carry burdens that did not belong to me. But what came next, not even Vanessa had planned. One afternoon I received a message from my great-aunt, a woman who rarely intervened in family problems. She asked me to come to her house without telling anyone else. She sounded worried or perhaps tired. When I arrived, she had a metal box on the table. She told me she had not opened it for years, but that I needed to know what was inside. Inside there were letters, many of them, some with dates from more than 20 years ago, all written by my grandmother, but not addressed to my mom. They were for Vanessa's father. My aunt explained something to me that left me sitting in silence, unable to process anything. Vanessa was the daughter of a relationship my father had outside the marriage with one of my mother's cousins, a situation they had all covered up so as not to create a family scandal. My family, the one that now doubted me, had decided a long time ago to protect a secret that was not mine, but that did explain why Vanessa always received special treatment, why my parents defended her even when she was clearly wrong, why there was a kind of silent debt that everyone seemed to be paying, except for me, who had no idea about anything. And the hardest revelation was the last one. My parents knew everything. They always knew. Vanessa was the favorite because she was the child from that hidden situation no one wanted to acknowledge, but that everyone wanted to keep close to avoid any family issues. And I, naive, grew up thinking that the affection towards her was casual, natural, spontaneous. I never imagined that I was unintentionally holding up the facade of a secret that had been hidden for decades. The disappointment I felt was not like other times. It was not hot or impulsive. It was cold and precise. It was a realization that settled deep, as if I had been waiting for this moment all my life. I did not know what to say to my aunt. I just nodded with a mix of pity, disbelief, and a sense of betrayal that I did not know who to direct toward. Toward Vanessa, toward my parents, toward the rest of the family, or toward myself for not having seen anything. When I left her house, I already knew what I had to do, and this time I did not hesitate. I blocked Vanessa on all social media, archived any pending messages, and called my parents to tell them I needed space. A lot of space, maybe years, maybe forever. There was no screaming, there was no drama, just a conversation in a neutral tone in which I realized that to them I had never been the son who mattered. I was just the one who did not cause problems, the one who was easiest to set aside to keep someone else's situation standing. As I hung up the call, I felt a strange calm. It was not happiness, it was not complete relief. It was something akin to recovering a part of myself that had been loaned out for too long. Vanessa continued her campaign for a few more days until a distant cousin leaked the family secret in a comment on one of her posts, and everything came crashing down. People stopped attacking me and started questioning her. They began calling her someone who manipulated situations, an opportunist, and most ironically, the favorite by convenience. Her narrative crumbled just as fast as she built it. I did not celebrate. There was nothing to celebrate. It was simply the inevitable end of a story that never should have existed. I slept better that night, not because the world was fair, but because I finally understood that moving forward did not mean forgetting, but learning not to repeat what hurt me. And this time, moving forward included doing it without my family, without Vanessa, and without the shadow of a marriage that never was. Comment. Hey guys, this story really made me stop and think about my own life, too. I hope it reminds you just how important it is to hold on to your self-respect. Setting healthy boundaries doesn't make you a bad person. Instead, it actually shows you value yourself and your peace. I've learned that real kindness must go both ways, including being kind to yourself. Taking responsibility for your own happiness is one of the most powerful things you can do. Sometimes, walking away from what drains you is the beginning of true healing. Choosing peace for yourself and your children is never the wrong decision. I want you to know it's okay to love people from a distance when that's what you need to stay whole. I hope this encourages you to reflect on where you might need to draw a gentle but firm line in your own relationships. Thank you for watching and for always showing up with an open heart. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.